In the previous session, we have covered on how to distill unorganized thoughts into one core message and how to produce your own high-impact presentation in 30 minutes or less. This session will focus on showing you how to go from untrained, mediocre speaker to expert persuader in 3 short days. What takes expert public speakers months to years of trial and error, you can now take the bare essentials to become your very own successful public speaker in just 3 days. This doesn't mean that you will become a flawless speaker, but I guarantee you will make lesser mistakes by doing what's proven as practiced by renowned great speakers and leaders from just about any giant industry. In each of these days, you will be exposed to different methods which will help you overcome your public speaking barriers, build your self-confidence, and especially stage fright, the biggest fear many people experience at the beginning of their public speaking experience. I will also show you how to craft simple presentations through mind map process, and most importantly, develop your own style of speech that stands out from your competitors. Lastly, I will show you how to move and compel your audience to answer your call to action. As said before in session 1, I have reason to believe that even people who consider themselves shy or introverts have just as much of a chance to succeed and become great public speakers as their extrovert counterparts. Here is a huge myth about introversion that I want to take the opportunity to dispel. A formal study shows that introversion has little or no link to the person being shy or socially intimidated. As a matter of fact, contrary to popular opinion, introversion is merely just a social preference. Being an introvert does not mean that the person is unable to speak in front of large crowds or unable to handle himself well in the company of people. That said, the single biggest misconception about introverts is that they are socially anxious and shy. This cannot be any further from the truth. The problem is that because of this popular myth, many introverts themselves have been led to believe that they will learn and perform less well in areas that extroverts and sanguine have an advantage over, namely public speaking and communicating with others. This is not true because while introvert-natured people have preference to be alone most of the time, deep in thought and rely less on friends, this does not mean that they are not excel in the area of public speaking or socializing for that matter. Having said that, if you identify yourself as an introvert, good news. The biggest myth has been busted. This is exactly why I believe anyone can be a great public speaker, extrovert or introvert. Don't let your outgoing friends push you into submission believing that you can't do it. Now let's cover the 3-day program in going zero to hero in public speaking. Day 1 is dedicated to rehearsing your techniques in public speaking from scratch. As covered in session 2, you need to set solid goals before you can go on to rehearse your speech. Important questions to ask yourself when setting goals are: who are your audience? What is your message? And what is your medium or media? Once you have set your goals, the next aspect of your speech you need to look at is your presentation. How long is your speech going to be? With the exceptions of running long seminars, if you have control over deciding how long your speech will be, I recommend keeping your speech within the 10 to 45 minutes range. Any longer can snap your audience's attention span. What is your core message? If you have set your goals with clarity, you will know what the main message of your speech is. As mentioned before in session 2, the core message is the main reason your speech is conceived. And then design your presentation around that core message. Many speakers use PowerPoint programs or other forms of illustrations to deliver impact with their presentations, while more experienced ones simply use a whiteboard and marker pen spontaneously. Let's look at how to structure your speech so that it is organized, smooth in flow, and delivers your main message across the room effectively. Basically, a speech structure can be broken down into 5 distinct components: opening sentence, transitions, stories, use of visuals, and closing. Opening sentence. Usually the introduction starts with giving a warm welcome and gesture to the audience. Hello and welcome to. Also, don't forget to thank your audience for attending and taking a pique interest in listening to your speech. An example of that line is, thanks for choosing my 6-figure internet income blueprint seminar, and congratulations on taking the first step in investing in yourself. Do not spend too much time with the introduction, no more than 60 seconds. Use transitions in between points as you move on to the next highlight of the speech. The use of transitions is powerful as it links the train of thoughts of your audience while keeping them in the same trance as you deliver your speech. Examples of transitions include, where I'm leading you up to is this. This is because. Speaking of, having said that, and many more examples. Did you know that implementing storytelling techniques into your speech can make your presentation all the more compelling? The Bible uses stories to deliver strong messages. Children remember fables better through stories. Stories are not only easy to remember, but are also exciting. At the same time, short stories deliver strong messages, and telling relevant stories will strengthen the message of your speech. Did you know that the average human mind remembers only 10% of what he hears after 2 weeks? This is according to the Cone of Learning. And did you also know that the average human mind remembers twice as much of what he hears and speaks after 2 weeks? This is why having presentations like PowerPoint or a whiteboard can offer visual aid to your audience. If for any reason using PowerPoint slides is not available to you, resort to using whiteboards to deliver your points across and encourage the audience to take notes. Finally, the closing. To conclude, you should tie everything together, summarize, make an appeal, call to action, or challenge your audience, depending on the goal of your presentation. Sum it all up by bringing up the objectives in the beginning and reinforce that these goals have been achieved. With the presentation side taken care of, and you have mind mapped your speech, it's time to practice delivering it before you go live. There are 3 important factors to delivering a powerful, high-impact speech: your facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. Did you know that the meaning of your message is communicated by your words, 7%, your body language, 55%, your tone of voice, 38%? Up until now, we have focused a great deal on how you structure your presentation, which has to do with your words, the 7% part. Your body language and tone of voice accounts for the majority of your success with public speaking, especially your body language, should you be presenting in front of a live audience. Did you know that a person can show 92 totally different facial expressions? This is why for this exercise it is imperative to practice in front of a mirror, preferably a full-length mirror where you can view yourself in full. Regardless of your personality temperament, smiling is an important facial expression to adopt throughout most of your speech, although it is perfectly okay to show a variety of other facial expressions when the speech demands it. Next, body language. Realize it or not, when you are presenting in front of an audience, you are performing as an actor on stage. Body language can be covered as a topic of its own, but you won't need that in this 3-day crash course because I will be giving you just what you need to know. For starters, avoid sitting down or standing in the same place for too long. Walk around on stage and don't just face one direction or one section of members on the floor. Gentle, non-arrogant hand gestures is preferred over standing still and reading from a prepared speech anytime. I also want to remind you not to read from prepared notes, at least not for an extended length of time. It is acceptable to glance at your notes for key points once in a while, and if you're using PowerPoint presentations, you can do away with that. Body language makes messages more meaningful and memorable, relieves nervousness, and adds punctuation to your speech. The key to having good body language is to have good posture, be natural, spontaneous, and conversational. Focus on communicating and sharing ideas, not on performance or sermonizing. The best way to practice body language is to incorporate body language into your everyday conversations. Try speaking in front of your mirror while moving your hands using simple movements. Once you get into the habit of using body language, it will come naturally during your presentation. Now, your tone of voice. The ingenuity of your intentions is above all, because if you speak with conviction, you will naturally speak confidently. Speak loudly and clearly. Do not mumble. Amateur speakers often make apologies, and this is one school of thought I want you to go against the grain. Do not apologize to the audience, even if you make a verbal mistake. If you make an error, correct it and continue. Also, avoid using complicated jargons or buzzwords that only a few people know. The best litmus test is to ask yourself whether a 10-year-old understands the word you plan to use. If you think so, go ahead. If you think otherwise, discard the word and use another word that's easier to understand. Remember, your speech is rendered useless if people don't understand what you speak. You might appear smart, but your message fails to deliver. Your tone, pitch, and volume should not be too loud or too soft to prevent yourself from sounding too aggressive or too timid. Adding variety to your vocal patterns allow you to enforce certain points into the heads of your crowd. For example, never, never, never give up. In addition, a well-timed pause can effectively dramatize your ideas, provide emphasis to certain points, or induce anticipation in your audience. Some good uses of pauses include pausing after a joke to provide emphasis, or pausing after being introduced to give your audience time to focus back on the presentation. When practicing, smile and practice out loud even if you're not talking to an audience. It helps build confidence and create the atmosphere of the actual public speaking. Practice posture by standing up straight. It helps increase energy and enthusiasm. Now let's go for a field exercise. Move away from the mirror after you have done ample exercises to self-evaluate. Get your family member, close friend, or spouse to be your mock audience. Let them know you are practicing your speech and get their permission to spend some time with you so you can improve yourself. Gather input from them after a short practice session. Don't worm your way out of this exercise because eventually you are going to be speaking in front of a crowd larger than this. Reflect on your flaws and qualities which could use improvement. Ask your mock audience to be very critical. You want to be able to learn from all your mistakes, big or small, before attempting to deliver the live presentation, when results and feedbacks can be a lot harsher and possibly unforgiving. Day 2. Incorporating style and humor. One common trait among great presenters is that they have their distinct style and personality. Style makes your pitch memorable and injects personality into your talk, thus keeping your audience excited. Judging from your style, you can either excite your audience or put them to sleep. Therefore, you should be focusing on conveying your style in the most exciting manner as possible. Telling your own stories is a good way to expose your audience to your style, and it gets people to relate with you at a more emotional level. Avoid monotone and copycatting speeches, especially if they are well-renowned. This is the reason why a lot of network marketers are perceived as copycats, or gain lower respect when overquoting from Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad fame. Dressing up is a good way to illustrate your style. By looking the part, such as by wearing a captain uniform or by sitting in a wheelchair, you can really impact your audience at an emotional level. Even if you are comfortable in dressing casual most of the time, dress professionally and make this the exception when presenting on stage. Wearing a coat, suit, or blazer makes you stand out of the crowd right away. People naturally develop an intuition and know who the person is in charge is when he walks into the room. That's going to be you. This is why you need to appear to have authority and not look like one of the audience. Stand out right away. Also, don't wear too much jewelry which distracts your audience. Stay away from colorful, distracting outfits and colors that blend into the background. Always remember that their main focus should be on what you are going to say. Keep neat and presentable. Style can be incorporated in many ways. For example, the success story hero. Speak of yourself as someone who overcame a huge obstacle in life. This helps establish credibility and inspire the audience. Be confident with your style. Be positively forceful and definitive. Indirectly, your style will help you to connect better to your audience and thus making them more likely to listen to you. Humor is a great way to get your audience's attention and liven up the atmosphere. If you want to use humor in your presentations, make sure that the jokes are original, relevant, and clean. Don't make fun of others. Don't use self-deprecating humor instead. For example, if you are a man of short stature, you might want to make fun of your height to illustrate a point as long as the joke is relevant to your material. If your jokes fail to make your audience laugh, don't be discouraged. Just say, "I'll remember not to tell that joke next time anymore," or "My mom thought it was funny." In the end of the day, just relax and have a great time. Your audience would not hesitate to loosen up seeing that you are enjoying yourself. Some hard and fast rules on using jokes though. Make sure you stick to clean ones. Do not share jokes that imply sexual, dirty, or offensive meanings. If you come from a multicultural background, all the more you need to be more sensitive to the various beliefs of your mixed audience. Also, don't make jokes at the expense of other people. Avoid use of vulgar words and profanity. And lastly, do not overuse jokes in your presentation. 1 or 2 will do. Moving on to day 3. Today is a new challenge. Today's challenge is to deliver a 5-minute speech, formal or casual, to a group of 2 to 4 friends. Where you have previously talked to a mock audience of 1, now you are going to take on a small crowd. Alternatively, you can record your rehearsal, though it is preferable you practice live with a small group. Tape your presentation in audio and if possible video format so you can review your presentation. Particular attention must be given to pacing and timing, and don't forget to observe body language. Pay attention to nonverbal messages, even during your rehearsal. Walk in straight and tall, and make eye contact with your audience. Smile. Put your hands beside you and begin. Refrain from standing still in one position by walking around instead. This helps to dissipate nervous tension. We're going to spend the rest of day 3 improving your speech practice. Let's start with identifying yet another common problem beginning speakers face: timing. There are typically 2 types of time problems: taking up more time than required and finishing earlier. And I have a different spontaneous response to each of the problem. If your speech is too short, if you have finished before schedule, in my opinion, this problem is less serious than the other. You can make use of the time available to open the floor for questions and answers. Also, you can share a story to add unexpected value to your speech, so it pays to keep 1 or 2 short stories up your sleeves. Now, this is a bigger problem if your speech is too long. Prevention is better than cure, and this is why I always encourage you to rehearse before going live. So you know that if your presentation takes longer than permitted time, be glad you found out now than later. Shave off the less important key points before the actual presentation. Also, use certain slides as indicators that your speech is about to finish soon. As a reminder, do not keep looking at the clock, watch, or timer, or mention anything about running out of time. Those are just as bad as brain farts, as you are wasting valuable time when it could be used effectively on delivering the speech. In any event, you run out of stage time and have not completed your presentation, stop and make a conclusion of everything you have just said. Adopt a professional stance and don't even hint that there's actually more to your presentation than what you had just delivered. The audience will take what they expect, and this is important why you should never overpromise in the first place. Handling questions and answers is another important sub-skill to develop in your course of public speaking. At the beginning of your speech, announce that you will handle the questions only after your speech has ended. This is so you don't have to risk letting your flow of speech getting interrupted by questions, relevant or not, that can derail you off topic. More on this will be discussed into greater detail in session 4. The final element in improving your public speaking is to eliminate as many brain farts as possible. A brain fart is when your mind blanks out temporarily or you couldn't think. This is often the result of fear or lack of preparation or lack of response towards impromptu situations. Brain farts are not only time-wasting but also display a lack of professionalism. To eliminate as many brain farts as possible, substitute your moments of ums and ahs with silence. Don't be in a hurry to talk. Keep a small note in your jacket containing key points to elaborate. This is so you can produce a smooth flow of speech that is linked together and relevant. Don't forget to breathe regularly. That's very important. It calms your nerves if you're new to public speaking or not used to speaking to large crowds, and especially speak slowly. If you speak too fast, not only will people find it hard to understand you, your words will often be taken less seriously. Platform skills play a crucial role in getting your audience to stand up from their seats. Attention should be given to pacing, pitch, volume, vocal variety, and use of gestures. These tools can help you to clarify and support words, dramatize and emphasize ideas. It can also help you to dissipate nervous tension and stimulate audience participation.